So today I decided to mix it up a little bit and bring my friend Mike back on, and we're going to talk about planning for retirement from a couple's perspective. Because normally, when I'm talking about my life experiences or planning for retirement or anything like that, it's from I'm single, a single woman, and I'm the only one that's involved in that process. So I was curious as to when you're planning, when you create your vision of what retirement is going to look like, and when you're planning for saving for that, as well as the expenses that come along with that lifestyle, how that works when you have two people who are hopefully headed in the same direction towards the same goal. So I asked Mike to come on and share how that works with he and his spouse. Okay, so I'm back with Traveling Mike today.
Hey, Sherry.
So I think we're going to do these, once a month, we decided. Today, we're going to focus on two different parts of Mike's journey. Part one will be his decision to retire and his spouse is still working. So couples retirement planning. And then the second one will bridge the gap of how he's going to finance his retirement. So Mike, I'm going to let you start where you want to start. And then since that's not really my story, and then I'll chime in with questions.
Well, the storyline is you have to be mentally prepared to do the
retirement. Can't really hear you. I don't know.
You can't hear me?
No. I don't know if it's my volume. Let me turn it up. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. You got to be mentally ready for the journey. And that's one big piece of it, because a lot of people are very ambivalent about taking that journey. The second part of it is making sure your partner or your spouse is ready to take that journey, or when they're ready to take that journey. And sometimes those dates don't line up perfectly. And that's the situation that I'm in right now, is where our dates are not lined up. She wants to finish out her career, which is very, very acceptable, and I love it. But then for me, I'm ready to go. I'm done. I'm mentally spent, and now it's time for me to work on Mike. Mm-hmm. Okay. And when I say Mike, I mean Mike spiritually, Mike financially, Mike from a health perspective, Mike from a marriage perspective. I got a lot of balls in the air to make sure.
I'm calling that the third act now, where we're no longer like tethered to the roles we had, like parents, our career. So the third act it's about us now. Like, what do we want for this probably last quarter of our life? So that's what I've decided to. Not so much retirement. You actually are retired or will be.
Well, thanks.
So for me, I can't really call it retirement because I'm not in retirement. But I was just saying, in case I start using that throughout the conversation, I'm calling what you're describing as the third act.
Okay. And the third act is actually, so far, I'm at the very, very beginning of the third act, quote unquote. And it's a lot of fun. It's very refreshing. And it's like starting all over again. And the question that I get asked the most is, what are you going to do in retirement? Okay, what are your goals? What are you going to do? And it's a fair question. And basically what you want to do is you want to work on yourself. I think that's the first thing. But I think everybody's looking at that bucket list, and where do you want that bucket list to go? And travel is one of them. And we've talked about that many times. And you want to make sure that the financial piece is in line. You want to make that your spiritual piece is lined up the right way. And that's that could be the fourth act, actually, because that's going to carry you all the way through to the end.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of different aspects of it. And wherever you want to chime in on this.
Well, I kind of want to rewind it back a little bit to what we were talking the other day, because I said, like, my sister told me I kept focusing on the $1 million, and she's single and I'm single. And I was like, well, that's just a number people use. Like most people, it's a target. And you made a valid point about, well, when you're married or, with a partner, that's an easier goal to obtain. So, and I'm not saying that was your goal, because I don't get it. Like I told you, I don't get into specifics of people's finances, but whether it's 500,000, $1 million, when you're doing it yourself, it's a lot more effort. You got to be a little bit more disciplined than when you have two incomes coming into the pool. Like when you got resources coming from two places. So I kind of wanted to start there because you made a couple of good points the other day about the contributions are coming from two different people, the expenses are being covered by two people, you know, your main, like housing, your main expenses.
Right.
So,
Right. So first of all, like you said, a half million, million, 2 million, 5 million, that's all a nominal number. You know, you sit down with your partner years before and you say, well, what is your vision? And then you get your visions together and sometimes
yeah,
they match, sometimes they don't. And then you get this number, you get this middle number in your head and you try, and it gives you something to strive for. It's
yeah.
not anything that's absolute, it's got to happen. Now, you mentioned the partner, the spouse, what have you. There's the other variable are the kids. Okay. The kids are, you know, if you have one, if you have two, if you have six, that makes a big, you know, of course, that makes a big difference. And then the other thing we talked about it briefly is, you know, in-laws, you know, those type of folks coming
Becoming
back into your
caregivers.
life. Yeah, and you have to come in and you have to support them. So those are the types of things that you have to talk about with your partner, spouse. And
Did you factor that into your retirement decision? I don't know
uh,
that I did. Now that you said it, I don't even think I
I
thought about
factored
it, honestly.
I factored it in from the standpoint that, we're originally from Detroit, so that means I have to go back. I may have to go back and forth
Yeah.
to monitor situations that, I don't control. And taking somebody out of Detroit and, because they're tied to their doctors, their church, their neighbors, that whole thing. And that's not the way to handle it. So that means I have to go to them. And
Yeah.
so that's a money piece, but I don't think it's going to be that much of a money piece or financial piece yet. But that's to be determined.
Yeah. So like the other day, so let's go a little bit more deeper into the expenses because like I said, I've always been single, never split expenses with anyone. But you were mentioning, because I didn't think about it, I just assumed the two of you would have two separate cars. But you were saying, like, as you've gotten older or in retirement, you probably don't need two cars. And with you living in the DMV area, mass transit is an option. It's not an option everywhere. Like if you were in
Right.
Detroit, that's not really an option.
They promote individuality in Detroit when it comes to cars.
I mean, they're just some cities and states, their public transportation sucks. So I mean,
right.
you're in an area like the East Coast. I think overall the East Coast has a pretty good transit system.
Yeah, they do.
Oh,
They do. One of the things is you have to be in, and I think we talked about this just briefly, is that you have to be in sync with your partner and won't know what they need. Now, the one of the things that help is I'm in a location currently where I can walk to the grocery store, I can walk to CVS, I can walk to the various places, I can walk to restaurants, so I don't have to make those quick runs, jump in the car. So is there a need? One of the things that I found out, and this is one of the things that came out of COVID, is that I'm like, do I really need a car? I mean, do I really actually need one? And the answer ended up being no. Now it takes a little bit more coordination, of course, with your with my spouse, but typically, no. I typically don't.
so you
have
guys
to.
only have one car?
We have two cars,
Oh,
but
you have two.
We only drive one.
Okay.
I drive. We only drive one, and literally, it's kind of like if it ever came back to the point where I want to go someplace on a regular basis, she wants to go someplace at the same time, then I don't have to go out and buy another car. But as far as typically, it's just one car that we roll with.
I will agree with that. Like, I haven't had a car now for 2 years. I don't miss the maintenance, the insurance. I mean, there's sometimes like, yeah, I want to just go get in my car, go somewhere. But on a daily basis, I don't really. And I've been going back
Right.
and forth as to whether or not I'll get a car. And
Right.
it will depend on where I live. Like in Atlanta, the MARTA gets me most places. If I was still in Vegas, they don't have a transit system. So, I think location plays a part. But the biggest thing I kind of wanted to touch on, if you don't mind, is because you do still own a home in another state and you're renting now. And I've been seeing, like, I feel the same way. I've been seeing a lot of videos of about as we enter this season of our lives, people are downsizing or they're selling and renting. And I think it's pros and cons to both. One of the reasons I've been reconsidering renting is I was like, do I actually want to pay rent the rest of my life? Like,
Right.
because at a certain point, if you're a homeowner, in theory, eventually you should pay the mortgage off depending on when you bought it and all those variables. That's the only thing I've been reconsidering. I'm like, do I actually want to just pay rent? Because that helped my mother in retirement. Her house was paid off. And
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
housing is probably most people's largest expense.
Correct.
And
I
and
agree with
right
that.
now you guys are renting. So was that part of the retirement plan, or you just decided in that particular area of the country you didn't want to buy again?
Well, this area of the country is very high cost.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about retiring in a place like the Washington, D.C. area, you're kind of like, okay, I get more bang for the buck if I move further south into North Carolina, Southern Virginia, that and that area, or if I move out off of the East Coast totally. So, do you want to spend your retirement monies doing things that are fun or trying to live?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, this is not the end. I don't think this is the end stop as it stands currently. So
Oh,
so
so that factored into you renting because you don't think
right.
that.
Yeah, this ain't it. I mean, I like it. I like the weather. I like all of the
Yeah.
trappings, but it's expensive. The DMV has some of the best healthcare in the country. It has some of the best jobs in the country. It has everything that everybody wants. So that means that everything is at a premium. And that premium just keeps going up
And
year after
traffic,
year.
although traffic is off the hook.
Traffic, as I get older, traffic gets more competitive, and you have to navigate more things that you didn't have to navigate 10 years ago. So it
But
is what it is.
that's kind of what I'm going through. Like, I'm pretty sure I won't stay in the Atlanta area. And I was like, wherever I go, it has to be the last stop. Like packing up,
Okay.
moving, like all of that. I I'm over it. I don't want to do it again. And coming from a state that didn't have income tax and going to a state that does, that makes a difference too. And so, I've looked at the states that don't have a state tax. Unfortunately, I don't really want to live in any of
You don't want to go to Alaska?
Alaska. Well, I didn't even know Alaska was one. I know Tennessee, Texas, Florida, and I had considered Nashville, but now I don't really think so. But after coming, you figure 2015 or 10 years, I didn't have to worry about a state tax. And
Right, right,
it makes a difference. And it's making a difference in my business. Because I told you,
right.
like in Georgia, now I got to pay sales tax on digital products. And I don't know how many states do that, but like Nevada only charges physical. They didn't charge on digital. Georgia
Mhm.
charges on everything. So this time around, since it's my finalist, and I am right now, like I said, I'm in my third act. I'm not retiring. But as I start planning for my retirement, I'm considering more things than I did when I just left corporate because I wasn't retiring. I was just leaving corporate. So I was kind of curious. So we'll do we talked about the shared expenses in the car and the health. But when you guys like sat down, because I asked you to come up with one or two suggestions for married couples that are discussing retirement. Like, what were not everything, like maybe what were the main things that you have to get on the same page with your spouse? And did you actually have a date? Like when you guys were talking, was it just in theory or you had set a date?
I set a date.
No, I mean when the two of you start having a conversation, you had set the date.
I had set the date mentally in my
Oh,
head,
okay.
and then I shared it. And the one thing with my wife is I have to make sure that I vocalize it often, early and often. And that's because I don't want to get into the conversation with somebody else saying, this is the first I've ever heard of this, and that happens. And I'm like, no, 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 no. This one here, you're going to get
Put it on the whiteboard here.
you're going to get it telegraphed months in advance. And that's one of the things that we've done. And it's one of those things that it's not an easy conversation, because now you're opening Pandora's box in regards to what bills have to be paid, what can be deferred, health. How's your health? How's my health? Who's gonna, how's this health thing gonna work out? At the end of the day, we talked about transportation. We talked about a number of smaller things, but everything gets thrown into this box.
Is that like a big portion? Are you trying to, like, I don't know how much debt you have, I'm not asking, but is that a thing to either get it at a very low level if you have it, or to get it paid off, like the two of you?
I think getting it down to a manageable level,
Okay.
if not paid off, just getting it to a manageable level is definitely a goal that we both agree on. And that brings up another point. And we were talking about sharing different accounts, bank accounts, that type of thing, and checking and non-checking. One of the things and I wanted to tell you this, is that we do share credit cards. Okay. And I think most couples share credit cards.
Well, I didn't want to get too personal, because I was going to ask that.
But then this is the, this will have you come to Jesus point will come when you share credit cards, because what that does is that intertwines the credit profile, right? Now, one of the things that I do, and we talked a little bit about monitoring, checking, banking, and financial accounts on a regular basis, also monitoring your credit reports and what have you. So now when she goes out and buys a big ticket item or opens the credit card, I see it.
Yeah.
So that keeps us honest. Not just in April when we have to do the taxes.
Well, we should preface it with, the two of you don't commingle finances. Like you said, you have your account, she has her accounts. Right. So I don't know if most couples do that or not. Like I told you, I do know some people that commingle. And as a single person, I couldn't wrap my head around how you could share a checking account with someone. Because like you said,
checking account is a no-go. It's a no-go. Maybe savings account. So. Savings account, yes. Checking account, no. No, won't work.
Well, even I thought with debt, and I don't really know, because like I said, I haven't experienced it. I thought when you were married, like when people get divorced, you're still linked whether your name was on that card or not. That's not how it works. Like you're saying you share a credit card, but even if you didn't, because you're married, aren't you still legally responsible for her debt? Like if you guys got divorced, no? I'm asking because I don't know.
I don't know because, like, let's say I don't know. Because if divorce comes or death comes, are you responsible for that other person's card that you didn't know about or you weren't co-signed on?
That would be a little messed up, but for some reason because you hear people talk about, like, they got married and they didn't know the person had all of this debt because they were more financially responsible, and now they're combining their finances. So, you should be on the same page. But I kind of want to back up something I didn't ask that I should have. So when you sat down early on, not when you decided to retire, when you guys, at one point, I'm assuming years ago, you had to have a savings goal. Was it because you keep it separate? Was it one big goal? We're going to stick with the million because that's just the number. Was it one big goal that, okay, jointly we want to reach $1 million, and then who's responsible for what? Or did each of you have your own individual goals and determine what you were going to be responsible for when the time came?
Excellent question. And it was the latter. Each one of us had our own goals. So I don't know what her goal was. She didn't know what my goal was. So, but at the end of the day, we both got to show our hands. And somebody's going to be disappointed.
Oh my God.
Somebody's going to be disappointed.
Well, I got $10. You only bringing $1? Like, what the?
There you go. Somebody's going to be disappointed.
So now that's getting ready to open up a Pandora's box for me.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to get in the weeds now. So, okay. I don't want to get too much into this because I want to kind of group some things together later. But if you don't know her goals and she doesn't know your goals,
we just gonna make up some money. So, she decided she's gonna save $10, but you've only decided you're gonna save 5. You're 50% less than her. When you get to the retirement years, like, how does that even
Okay.
work?
Okay. It's not as blind as that. Okay.
Okay.
What happens is that, and I think we touched on it the other day in regards to company matches.
Yeah.
And so okay, so you know how much your spouse makes. She knows how much you make.
You
much
should know, but not
you
everybody
shouldn't.
knows.
It's not everybody, right? So then there's the company match, and then how much they're up and above over that. So you got a kind of a mental note of what somebody had, what you have, what she has, based on that small conversation that you have is how much you're putting away on a paycheck to paycheck basis. So you just gotta extrapolate that out 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Now, what that doesn't include is loans, withdrawals, those type of things. Those are the kind of things you don't know, but you only know that big aggregate number that should be at the end. And and a lot of these insurance companies and a lot of these financial companies have all of these models where if you save X amount for 30 years, you're going to end up with this and what have you. So you run those models and you say, oh, that's a cool number. That's something that's livable, and that's it. But to make a long story short, she's got her thing. I got my thing. And
I am like, there's so much in my head right now because I'm like, this almost sounds like the joint checking account that you shouldn't have together. Because, so what you said in theory, and because like I said, I don't want to get too specific about y'all finances, but what you said in theory, like you would know what's available for her to contribute. You'd know that. But unless you actually looked at something, so do you guys do like, how people call them money days? They be like, not for tax purposes, just for financial planning purposes. Once a year, once a quarter, do you kind of look at each other's financials? I mean, not the bank accounts. I'm strictly talking about retirement planning right now. Do you look at that to see, so you have some idea of you're on track, she's on track, like, or you just, both of you just let it go?
You ever play poker?
No. And I tell people the reason I can't, I don't have a poker face. Like my emotions, if you talking crazy, I'm like, you talking crazy. Like it's gonna show in my face. But that's what I'm saying. Like, so I'm thinking, I'm not really understanding.
It's one of those things where typically you don't talk about it unless something provokes it. And I'll give you an example of what can.
Okay, before you give me an example, can I ask a question? Then give me the example. How did y'all come up with this plan? Is it like, so like I said, I keep saying because I'm not married. Is that more the majority of, you think, how married couples do it, or did you guys just kind of create your own plan?
I think married professionals do it the way we're doing it.
Okay.
And I think because you go to school, you learn a craft, and you're at a job, and you're starting down this path before you get married, typically. And so you've got your whole setup going on, and she's got hers, you got yours, and then you get married, and she still got hers, you still got yours, and so it's not merged. Now you may say this is what I got, at the very, very beginning, and I got $10,000 and you have this, but you got this debt and I got that debt, and we'll see how it works out, down the road.
Okay.
But there are things that will provoke that conversation. And I think that's where I was going with this. And typically if the capital markets are down and they're down and they're down, and then it's kind of like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Have you lost money? What are you in? Are you in money markets, or are you in,
tech you stock? Discuss it then. If it's a lot of volatility.
Right. Exists. Okay. If the volatility comes, then that brings up that conversation.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna end this part of the segment with your one, two, three, however many suggestions you came up with for married people who may or may not have had this conversation. Because I'm gonna tell you, some of my friends, when they talk about their finances with their spouse, I'm just like, how does that work? And I've been fortunate because I only have to consider me. I don't have to consider anybody else, which makes it a lot easier, I think. Not so much financially, because if you got two people contributing, that definitely would make a difference. But as far as the decision-making process and everything, it's a little easier for me.
But there's still a lot that goes into it. It's not just saving money in a 401k or a checking banking account, savings account, what have you. If you have kids and you want to send them to school, that's the decision to send them to higher education, then you have to plan for that. That means you have to contribute, that you both have to contribute at this day and age to make that work.
Yeah.
So that's one of the other triggers that will bring that conversation up. Is that okay? Is Junior and Miss Junior, are they going to a private school, a state school, or are they going to school period, or are they going to go to community college? And so that conversation triggers, okay, how much are we going to save? How much do you think it's going to cost? And those models, again, which financial planners have them, boom, they just kind of roll it out. If I save $50 a month when they are born to the time they're 18 years old, how much will I have at 4% or 5% or 7%, what have you? And that number will pop up. And now what's the cost of going to the University of Michigan or Michigan State or University of Maryland or what have you? And boom, and that's the number. You're like, wow, that's the in-state number. Now this is the out-of-state number. I'm like, okay, this is unreal. So anyway, those are the types of things that will drive a conversation.
So that's one suggestion, is because I actually was going to ask you about that, because what is your son? Is he going into his senior year? How many more years?
Yes, his senior year.
Okay. And I figured it's like, so not only because he technically is crossing over, kind of like I did with my mother, into her retirement years. So she probably hadn't really thought about it early on, but as she started getting like, I want to leave here, I'm still in school, and she has to take me into consideration. Like my sister had already graduated. We were 3 grades apart. So it wasn't an issue with her. But I told you, got to my senior year, she was ready to come out, but she was going to stay another year because I was still in school. So that's one decision, I guess. Well, really, whether you're married or single, that's not really a married conversation. That's if you have children, you got to factor them in.
Oh, absolutely.
And what part of your journey do they hit? If you start later in life, like with my kids, I had them earlier, so it didn't factor in. Like, they're grown now and I'm entering retirement years. But like a lot of people are starting to have children later, so it will become a decision. Like you're going to have to factor that into your retirement planning too. I mean, some people.
Absolutely, absolutely. When you decide when you start that family, and we started later, but what that did, it gave us an opportunity to kind of have kids in our peak performing years, or
as far as
salary
your career.
years,
Yeah,
as far as the career. And so now on the back end, that's a decision that you got to take into consideration. Okay, is that college thing pretty much ready to kind of slide off into the sunset at year number 4, or is it going to be a 5, 6, 7? That's the case, and that's a problem. And so you got to make sure that is under control and headed in the right direction.
Well, one thing we'll kind of end it here. You had brought up about your taxes, so that's annually, at least annually, you guys have a come to Jesus meeting on a minimum once a year,
right?
But that's just to prepare for taxes. That's not retirement planning.
No, that's not retirement planning. That's just with the taxes. That's a whole nother conversation. So when you file together, everything is the W-2s are sitting on the table, and all of the other, mortgage interest and all the other things that, come in and what have you, that at one point were deductible. Everything that's deductible gets put on the table, and anything that you've done that was, that wasn't discussed is going to be unfolded at that time.
Okay, so I mean, it was interesting to see how like the two of you operate and navigate the finances in your relationship, especially the retirement planning. Like I said, it's still a lot in my head that I would like to ask, but I don't really know how to phrase it because it it's not flying blind, but to me it's a little flying blind because you're if you don't go over, like I said, the come to Jesus meeting, it's like, okay, well, let's review our retirement statements too to see if we're on track because we're talking about living this lifestyle at this age. But she has what she has, and you have what you have. But the two of you, you just kind of, she probably got that, and he probably has this. But you're not actually reviewing what each other has. I'm kind of at a loss how the retirement years actually work.
Okay. And that's another fair question. A lot of assumptions are dumped into that. And one of the things that will help you out, and the answer here is living within your means.
Yes.
So if you know you're living within your means, and I know I'm living within, and she's living, then there shouldn't be any surprises. But if if we see a new convertible in the driveway,
But
and
that's affecting your current finances. I'm just talking about what you're saving. Like to me, since
well, you're not. I mean, if you go out and get a $1,000 a month car note, saving is not easy.
it's not, but your 401ks and all of those, they typically are coming directly out of your check. So you're just being forced to live on what's coming into your account. But I'm just saying, to me, it seems like assumptions are being made of what each one of you are contributing and how much is being accumulated over there. Because you said you
Right.
don't really go over each other's statements, even during your come to Jesus meeting. So it obviously works for you guys. I was just trying to get a better understanding because you would, okay, we'll just say.
It goes back to poker. It's like we go back to the poker analogy. How much you got? Well, how much you got? Who's gonna blink?
All right, wait a minute. I'm gonna leave it on the poker. We're gonna come back for part two. We're gonna come back for part two in just a minute. So Traveling Mike is gonna come back. We're gonna discuss his finances specifically.
Oh, really?
Yes. Part two.
So I hope you found that conversation as interesting as I did, because I've always been somewhat curious how couples navigate combining their finances to make it work, because you have two unique individuals and we all have our own goals, desires, and wants. And when you're in a relationship, a committed relationship or a marriage, there's another person that has to be considered, and there has to be conversations about what are you going to do, especially as I think we approach our third act, and if you're actually retiring in this season. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments if you're married or you're in a committed relationship, not necessarily married, how you're navigating that, how you and your partner work through it, and if you're comfortable maybe sharing some of your tips that might help other couples. I'm sorry. So in the next part two, we're going to get a little bit more detailed about Mike specifically, as we mentioned, because he is claiming benefits at 64, 3 years before his wife is retiring. So that's a 3-year time span that he has to bridge the gap while they wait for her to retire from corporate America, and then their lifestyle can change because they are both will have time freedom. She'll no longer be working a corporate job. So don't forget to come back for part two. Also, if you're entering your third act in life this season, because my channel has definitely pivoted, please subscribe and join the conversation. I'd love to hear you guys' stories. As I said, we're changing lives one story at a time. What one person is going through may actually help someone else. As always, I'll see you in the next video.